You are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast. I'm Larck. I will take on Twitter here for the weekly meeting where we're going to talk about how Auburn's offense has been absolutely awful for the second straight week in a row. Luckily, Auburn football will not be on our screens next week. They'll be on a bye week before the Georgia game. But we got to talk about this Texas A&M game. Good Lord Almighty. This might be, and I feel like I throw this around almost at least every year I've said this, but this might sell it. This might be the worst this offense has ever looked. And I might even say this is the worst an Auburn offense has ever looked on my TV screen. Jackson Arnold, 18 of 33, 125, 55% completion percentage, 86%, which is not the issue here. Worst game for Jackson Arnold stat-wise that we've seen this far. Run game, abandoned from start to finish. We went into this week, and I brought this up on the pregame show. You know, the weak spot of this A&M defense is their inability to stop the run. And Auburn scored the lowest point total of the season any other team has. And they've played teams like UTSA and another G5 school and Notre Dame. And all those schools put up 20-plus on Texas A&M. And it's just another game where this offense, all they had to do was put up 20, and they would have won the game. This defense looked awesome. Just initial thoughts. The defense looked awesome. And I'm going to sit here and hype up the defense for as long as I can before I get into how terrible Auburn looked. This is the worst offense I have ever seen. And I'm going to say that because this is the most talented offense we've seen in quite some time and on paper. And it's just been bad. It's been terrible. But the defense, I'm going to highlight the defense first just because they were great. Of course, Marcel Reed still made some plays, but was kept out of the end zone on both from his legs and through the air. Only one touchdown was given up from Auburn's defense. Le'Veon Moss did have himself a good game, 21 carries for 140 yards. Concepcion still had a pretty decent game, 7 catches for 113 yards, but he was going to have a day. But Auburn's defense was able to put up and shut up the scoring that A&M could have done. And again, this is a game where I look back, and A&M should have definitely blown Auburn out. But this defense fought back, and they fought back hard. Just kind of going through some of the big-time players here for Auburn. I mean, Xavier Atkins is going to get all the love here. Got the interception. That was a 72-yarder, which ended up, if I'm not mistaken, had the most had more yards than the offense in the second half. If I'm not mistaken, I could be extremely wrong about that. I'm trying to get this fan on because it's a little humid in my office here. But there we go. So that's what I was saying. So his interception return was like 73 yards. In the second half of the game, Auburn's offense totaled 72 total yards. Xavier Atkins has been an absolute gem for Auburn. He's already been like the defensive player of the year. He's probably one of the best pickups defensively in the transfer portal this offseason from any team ever. But again, this defense looked great. Again, there were some shortcomings that they had, but overall, I think they played a great game. And again, they can't go unpunished. The middle of the field still is a massive weak spot for this Auburn defense. Teams are still able to pick apart the secondary on big time chunk plays that help get the ball down the field. But whenever that front seven is getting to the quarterback, they are getting to the quarterback. Again, Xavier Atkins got himself a sack. Auburn had 4 sacks this game. Chris Murray got 1. Eric Winters got 1. And Kieran Crawford got 1. And I have to highlight Eric Winters in this one and Anquan Fegans, both making big-time plays. Those two are going to go down as one of the best defensive back duos in Auburn football history. Those two have just been absolutely lights out whenever they get in. And I do still enjoy the fact that this defense still heavily relies on the freshmen. There you go. That's not grammatically correct. Still rely heavily on the freshmen. And these freshmen are still making big-time plays, which I really enjoy seeing. The offense, on the other hand, more on that in a second. Yeah, front seven still had a good game, despite the fact that Le'Veon Moss did have a career day for him. Poor tackling, middle of the field being left open was a massive draw for that. But I can't not talk about how just good this defense looked despite all that. I mean, only 16 points given up, and your offense was doing you absolutely no favors. This is a championship caliber defense with I can't even say a bowl game. I can't even say like a Birmingham caliber offense. This offense, if Auburn's defense was just like half the team that it was, Auburn would be winless right now. Outside of maybe Ball State, Auburn would be 1-4, and they've been playing like a team that's 1-4 offensively. And I'm just going to go ahead and just highlight the defense. Go ahead and give my grade for them and the defensive player of the week before I get into the offense, which is probably going to be the last bulk of this episode. Defense, this game got an A- to me. Again, this might be a little bit boosted because the offense was just that bad, but the defense played great. Xavier Atkins is an absolute dog. You only had 2 penalties called on you defensively. Both of them were in the second quarter. Played a clean game. Your freshmen looked good. Your guys you were relying on to kind of fill in for injuries looked great. The front seven was great. Secondary, again, had some holes, but growing pains defensively. You have a lot of young guys playing out there. I'm going to give the defense an A-. And then again, defensive player of the week, going to go ahead and give it to Xavier Atkins. 10 tackles, 1 sack, 2 TFLs, and 1 73-yard interception. That I'm still mad that it wasn't a pick six. Now, the offense is where the remainder of this show is going to be led to. Auburn has an offensive-minded head coach. Auburn has a quarterback guru head coach. Auburn has 3 play callers. Auburn is the worst offense in the SEC. Jeff Lebby has turned Mississippi State into a very potent offense in just a couple of years with less resources than what Hugh Freeze has had over the past 3 years. It makes 0 sense to me. Why in the world? What is the game plan that you come up with whenever you sit there and watch film on Texas A&M and you watch Jeremiah Love have himself a day versus A&M defense, and you looked at Jeremiah Cobb and you looked at Damari Alston and you were like, you know what? Y'all aren't getting any carries till the second half. And even when you do, Jeremiah's only getting 6 and Damari's only getting 2. Auburn's 2 best backs combined for 8 carries in this game. Both of them averaged over 4.5 yards per carry off of those carries. I don't understand how you saw that. And again, small sample size. But again, you saw more wrongdoing out of your pass offense than you have your run offense. And you're abandoning the run game yet again. And again, the same thing last year. We talked about this last year with Jarquez Hunter, where he just wasn't getting the football. Jarquez Hunter was the best player on last year's team outside of KLS, but Auburn was refusing to give the ball to Jarquez Hunter. Quez should have ran for 2K last season. Quez should have ran for 2K. KLS probably should have got that K because Robert Lewis should not have gotten any targets thrown his way. But how are you going to watch film? How are you going to tell me that you are an offensive guru and you watched the tape for Texas A&M? You had 5 days to watch that tape and watch that film from that Notre Dame game. And you decided that the run game was not going to be part of your game plan. One of your play callers is Derek Nix, who's the running back coach. And for some reason, even he wasn't calling run plays. So that almost brings it to my attention that it's not a 3 play caller system. It's only a 1 play caller system. And I'm not going to sit here on a soapbox and say that I want Hugh Freeze fired, but definitely he's earned a hot seat conversation. The hot seat has earned it's right in Auburn, Alabama right now. An offensive guru head coach can't produce a quality or even semi-decent offense in the SEC. 10 whole points. And you can't even really say that because I'm going to give that touchdown to Xavier Atkins because he, again, was the reason that play even scored. And I'm sitting there watching Auburn play yesterday. And I'm going to call it the play calling the entire show. But Jake Thornton also needs to get called out in this game. what even goes on at practice with the offensive lineman where I'm having to sit here on Saturday watching the quarterback get sacked after sack after sack after sack on him. And then also Auburn gets a big play down the field. Oh, guess what? False start. Auburn finally gets some momentum going their way. Oh, holding. Like, there's such a lack of discipline going on this offense. How in the world, you're going to pay a lot of money NIL-wise for these top-notch offensive linemen, and they are not prepared for SEC. They're not prepared for this level of the game. I sit here and I watch in what should be a clean pocket, which, again, there were some issues yesterday with Jackson holding the ball too long, but less so than Oklahoma. The pocket broke down very quickly against Texas A&M. Xavier Chaplin was awful. He got bullied. And there's like a picture going viral on Auburn Twitter of Jackson Arnold missing 4 guys, all 4 receivers who were open. But are ignoring the fact that the second that those guys were getting open, Xavier Chaplin was pushed all the way to his vision. And then he could have made a play there. Cool. But guess what? No matter what happened on the play, even while he was getting pushed backwards, he was still holding. It makes absolutely zero sense to me. There's no accountability being held on these offensive linemen. And again, I think Connor Lew and Dylan Wade and Jeremiah Wright have also made some mistakes, but for some reason, it's not that noticeable. I mean, Jeremiah Wright is going to make a couple. Connor Lew's going to make a couple. Dylan Wade missed a block that I can recall. But it doesn't happen that often that I can, I'm going to sit here and talk about the interior offensive line getting derailed by the defensive line. It's the tackles. It's Mason Murphy and it's Xavier Chaplin. Something needs to happen with those tackles. Xavier Miller, Tyler Johnson, DeAndre, there are so many offensive line. You could not sit here and tell me that those are the best 5 on the field at any given time. Probably your best 3 in the middle. I can put money on the fact those are not your best 2 tackles. There's Jake Thornton has to look at himself in the mirror, and I think his seat should be very hot. Sam Pittman just got fired over Arkansas. I would not be upset whatsoever if Hugh Freeze fired Jake Thornton during the bye week and asked Sam Pittman if he wanted to be an offensive line coach. Would not be mad in the slightest. This offensive line is embarrassing. Those tackles are embarrassing. Auburn spent a good chunk of NIL money to bring Xavier Chaplin over to the SEC. Probably spent some money, too, on getting Mason Murphy from USC. All of Auburn's offensive linemen were supposed to be drafted this year in the NFL draft. I can see Connor Lew. Jeremiah Wright, maybe. Dylan Wade, maybe. Xavier Chaplin, absolutely not. Mason Murphy, absolutely not. Those are sack machines. If I'm a Georgia edge rusher, I am foaming at the mouth for the opportunity to come around the edge and hope one of those 2 can block me. Because guess what? They're either gonna give up and let you sack the quarterback, or they're gonna hold you and push the offense back 10 yards anyways. It's an embarrassing thing to sit there and watch happen. This offensive line looked terrible, and it has looked terrible all season long. And again, it might help if the offense actually focused on the run game, which they should have been doing all along. This wide receiver room deserves so much better than what we've been seeing from this offense. This running back room deserves so much better than what we've seen from this offense. And I look at Jackson Arnold, and again, it's some issues that he has in his game. He has happy feet. He tends to look at a read too long, and it doesn't work out. But again, the play calling is not helping his case. If your offensive line is getting torn up in such a quick manner, why are you calling these, routes that that take too long to develop down the field? Or why are you choosing these screen passes that break down so easily? Why are you my least favorite play that I have seen Auburn call this entire year, and they keep calling it, and they called it about 5 or 6 times during the game yesterday. That stupid rollout play, that stupid rollout pass, nothing ever happens on that play. Yes, Jackson Arnold scored on it. Cool. Awesome. Look at every other time. He almost threw a pick on the first time they ran it. He threw the quadruple coverage. The comeback route's never coming back. The offensive line is always trying to hold somebody. It doesn't work. It's a terrible, terrible play call. Same thing with the quarterback draw. Guess what? No one is pulling a Baylor anymore. They've learned from watching the film, because that's what coaches are supposed to be doing. Supposed to be watching the film. No one is going to give Jackson Arnold the benefit of the doubt anymore when it comes to running the football. They're going to send pressure on him. They're going to be watching his legs. It's not going to come as easy as it did. And if that's the only form of offense you got, guess what? You gave it away in week 1. There are so many fundamental issues that are wrong with this offense. Let me go to my next point. The tight ends. Preston Howard cannot catch the football. Preston Howard cannot block. Brandon Frazier can block. He can't make big time plays through the air. He can secure catches. But why are you calling a tight end screen to Brandon Frazier? I mean, yeah, I can understand like an out route, maybe a little post route, and let the 6'7" guy catch a ball over somebody. But you're going to call a screen pass to the slowest tight end on the team, outside maybe Tate Johnson, and expect him to cut up field and I guess what, score? I don't get it. And I go into another thing that I don't understand. Horatio Fields broke his foot over the week, right? So he's out indefinitely. So what is the plan for that role? Well, Perry Thompson steps in, drops his one opportunity he got, but Perry Thompson checks in and he immediately runs a stop and go. If Perry Thompson is the replacement for Horatio Fields, why is Perry Thompson not running a Horatio Field route? And I look over to the left side and I watch Cam Coleman. Cam Coleman's not running any stop and goes. Cam Coleman's running these outs and ends and comebacks and curls. They gave Cam Coleman the Horatio Field route tree. After we just saw what he could do with those big-time routes against Oklahoma, where he embarrassed the ever-loving crap out of the Oklahoma defensive back room, and you sit there and you're going to force him to not get a chance to extend a play. Every single one of Cam Coleman's passes were caught with a defender in the vicinity of the area, so as soon as Cam caught the ball, he was tackled. You have one of the best wide receivers in college football. Dare I say, a top 3 wide receiver in the SEC. Because I think Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver have earned some conversations. You're going to let him not have a full access to the playbook. You're not going to allow Cam Coleman to be able to do, honestly, let Cam Coleman play like I used to. Whenever I played video game, whenever I was, I'd use a wide receiver on the video game, and I was like, oh, I don't like this route, so I just run whatever and get open, and boom. Let Cam Coleman do that. That's what Cam Coleman should be doing. Not these curls, not these out routes on 2nd and 10. Let Cam Coleman run that stop and go. I assure you, Cam Coleman is going to make that play. I don't get it. You have got to let your playmakers make plays, and you're not letting it happen. You're not letting it happen. You used Eric Singleton a lot in this game, but again, why was Eric Singleton like the first non-quarterback to get a carry in this game? That's what I don't understand. First down and second down play calling have been awful this season. How Auburn needs to adopt the run pass. Run the ball, then run the ball again, and then maybe pass the ball. That's what Auburn should be running. I don't see how, as an offensive-minded head coach, you can sit here and constantly commit malpractice of the offense. It's awful. And I look at receiving, like guys you use to catch the ball. If Jeremiah Cobb, you sit here and tell me he's more of your scat back, someone you can trust to catch the ball out of the backfield, why are you not using him more to do that? He caught one pass, and he got 11 yards out of it, and then he never got another pass thrown to him. Like, what exactly are you doing on the sideline? What exactly are you doing during practice? And you go on after the game and you just tell me that the team just needs to stay together? That's all you can tell me is the team needs to stay together. No. I mean, yes, they should, but that's not the first thing you need to be talking about. This offense was abysmal. Again, the penalties, 10 penalties on the offense. Again, I call it 4 false starts on this offensive line, 3 holding calls on the O-line, 1 illegal shift called on the O-line, which that one's not on 8 penalties on the offense. It was 10 total, but 8 penalties called on the offense. And I go back and I look at that last drive of the game. It was like, 3rd and 1. You made a 9-yard pass. Cool. It was like the farthest the ball has gone all game long, felt like. 3rd and 1. And you pass the ball. Okay, cool. 4th and 1. You pass it again. You get sacked. What exactly is the game plan? Listen, my fiance, love her to death. She isn't going to be a play caller anywhere anytime soon. But I looked at her and I just told her some stats. I said, "All right, so here's your running back. He's averaging 4 yards a carry in this game. You're 3rd and 1, game on the line. What should you do here?" And she said, "Run the ball." I said, "Okay. Well, Auburn did it. 4th and 1. Now what should you do?" And she's like, "Run the ball." Oh, well, Auburn did it. They lost the game on a sack. And again, I'm going to berate what I saw from this game. Do I think Hugh Freeze should get fired right now? Absolutely not. Do I think that the conversations are now being had? Absolutely. I think if there's not a conversation being had after what we just saw unfold on Saturday, then there's malpractice going on all over this administration. What we saw on Saturday was an absolute embarrassment. DJ Durkin has been coaching this defense and has turned this defense into one of the best in the SEC. And it gets constantly overshadowed by how horrendously bad this offense is. And look, I'm gonna give one guy some credit. Marcus Davis has been doing his due diligence with this team. This wide receiver core is legit, but the play callers are not giving them opportunities. I'll give Derek Nix some love here. Derek Nix, running backs coach. They're not giving him any credit. They're not doing the due diligence to let his dudes go off. So I sit here, and again, Hugh Freeze is hot seat gets hotter by the game that we keep seeing, hotter by each game we see like this. And again, I can understand the sentiments of people who say that he should be fired like as soon as possible. But again, it just puts Auburn into such a bad place because I think if you fired him now, you'd have to go with Durkin, and Durkin doesn't have the best track record as a head coach. But again, I think he's earned the opportunity at this point. And then if he finds a way to coach himself up, you got to get rid of the entire offensive staff, which could do a lot of damage. I think you got to find a guy who could keep Marcus and keep Derek on staff. That way you keep those two best positions together. But at the end of the day, if I'm Hugh Freeze, you got to spend these next 2 weeks doing something. I think you need to look at your entire offense. Pick out what you're doing poorly on, which is your own play calling. Your quarterback isn't making the proper reads in a timely manner. And your offensive line is an absolute liability to your entire offense. You need to look at yourself in the mirror, and you need to fix that. What Auburn should do is I think you reevaluate your offense. You reevaluate everybody, but again, I think you need to walk in, you get like a whiteboard, go in the room, and put Cam Coleman, wide receiver 1, Eric Singleton, wide receiver 2, Malcolm Simmons, slot receiver, and Jeremiah Cobb, Damari Alston, running back 1 and running back 2. And then you need to fill in those gaps with players who will actually play the game, who will actually make the correct call, correct play, correct read, will make a block, will find a way to not push his offense back any further than the original line of scrimmage. And I don't know if that's Jackson Arnold. I don't know if that's Ashton Daniels. I don't know if that's Deuce Knight. I don't know if that's one of the walk-on guys who are wearing number 20 on the sideline. You have got to find the best possible player to make the best possible plays. And again, I think Jackson Arnold has all the talent in the world. I think Jackson Arnold has the capability to be an all-time great quarterback if he can hone in and not be so scared to make the play happen. But until he's able to do that, you can't keep putting him on the field like this. You can't keep calling these plays that make him look like this, to where he has to sit there and, think about what play he should be doing in the middle of the play. Because by the time that happens, if the offensive line has an actual pocket built up, it's breaking down by that point. The defenses are going to come to terms with the fact that Cam Coleman is a legit down the field receiver. And guess what? They're going to put dope 2 on him. That's going to take one guy off of Eric Singleton. It's going to take one guy off of Malcolm Simmons. Malcolm Simmons made some mistakes too. I mean, I'm looking at the box score now. Malcolm Simmons had 8 targets against Texas A&M and only brought in the ball twice. There's some things he has to fix there too. But when it comes to making the plays happen, Cam, Malcolm, Eric, Cobb, and Alston are your guys that you need to start leading on more. And you need to reevaluate the rest of that. I think in the offensive line, you start with Lou, you go Wade, Wright, and then you need to find 2 tackles who will actually get the job done. And the one thing that made me the most irate is in the first quarter, after a sack or after a false start, they mentioned that Jake Thornton came up to Xavier Chaplin and told him, if you keep making these mistakes, we're taking you out of the game. And he kept making them. And he kept making them. And he kept missing blocks. And he kept making mistakes. And he kept doing this. And he kept doing that. And he was never taken out of the game. There's a lack of discipline in this coaching staff. There's a lack of coherency in the offense. And I don't know what you need to do. I'm not a coach. I wish I was there. I've coached him on a video game. And, if I think a guy is a better fit to make plays happen for me, I'll put him in. And I think that sentiment should be spread across actual college football coaches. Cam Coleman should be getting the ball more. Eric Sanders should be getting the ball more. Jeremiah Cobb and Damari Alston need to be running the ball more. And you need to stop trying to rely so much on what potential you believe Jackson Arnold can aspire to. You need to look at what he is currently doing. And again, I'm a Panthers fan. Guess what? I hate life on Sundays too. But last year, I watched Dave Canales actually make a coaching decision, and he benched Bryce Young, put in Andy Dalton for a little bit. Andy Dalton wasn't doing too hot, but once Bryce Young came back, it awoke something in him to where he popped off the rest of the year. And again, the same thing we said last year about Peyton Thorne. And again, Hank Brown was not green on the other side for the other quarterbacks. But again, I'm watching Ashton Daniels. I mean, I watched some film on him a little bit whenever he committed. He can make plays happen. He's a playmaker too. He just wasn't a 5-star quarterback. I'm sure if Ashton Daniels had the roster Auburn has right now, he could probably made more plays happen. Deuce Knight, I think Deuce Knight kind of showed up a little bit that, showed us that he's not quite there yet. He's not quite the playmaker that we know he can be and the hope that he will be. I think if you're Hugh Freeze, you need to have a serious conversation with Ken Austin about what direction you are going to be taking with the quarterback next in the coming weeks. Again, I think we talked about how it was always Jackson Arnold's job to lose. I don't think he ever had an opportunity to lose it. I think you have to give Ashton Daniels a look here. If you're going to keep calling these plays, I think Ashton Daniels is a better runner than Jackson Arnold. And I think with, the abilities Arnold has, he can be a great quarterback. But we're just not seeing it But also, why are you relying on him to throw the ball 33 times in a game against a good pass defense when you yourself are incompetent? This game, if not, I thought last game was the wake-up call. This game has to be. And again, the bright side going forward is the fact that Auburn has lost these 2 games, and it's not been a blowout. It's felt like it, but it's not been a blowout. And these teams are top. I think A&M is now number 6 in the nation. Oklahoma's now number 5 in the nation. That's the bright side. But the way you're playing offensively, you're not going to win a lot of football games. Missouri is going to give you a fit. Vanderbilt might blow you out if you are unable to make plays on the offensive side of the football. If you are an offensive guru, if you are a quarterback whisperer, you should be able to take a talented quarterback like Jackson Arnold and turn him into a talented college football quarterback. And we're not seeing that. So you need to reevaluate everything that we've been seeing. You need to reevaluate those tackles. Find the 2 guys who are going to make the plays happen, who are going to keep the blocks, who are not going to hold and false start and cost you yards after yard after yard after yard, cost you the momentum in the game, all of that. You have got to figure something out because it can't happen again. I think if we go into if we leave the Georgia game and we're still talking about the offense like this, I don't think Hugh Freeze makes it to the next bye week. And again, I hate that. I hate being the team that always has to fire a coach, that always has to be on another coaching carousel. I hate it. I don't want to be on it again. I've seen too many coaches come and go for Auburn. It can't happen. Because I always will be a fear of mine that Auburn is just going to find another way to mess it up. Make this one work by making the right calls. And again, that is evaluating the personnel you are putting on the field. So, gonna go ahead and give my grades of the offense. Offensive player of the week for the offense. No one gets it. Absolutely no one. Jeremiah Cobb should have gotten it. I thought about giving it to McPherson just because I love the fact that McPherson is still able to make field goals. But yeah, offense, no one gets it. Offensive grade, F. Head coaching grade, F. You're bringing down the entire, grade book of this team. Defenses play great. You've got to find a way to be average. If the Auburn offense can just be average, I think the most average offense is 17 points. If you had scored 17 points in this game, you would have won. And that is the most depressing thing I can possibly think of to say, is if Auburn scored 17 points, they would have won the game. And I look at I'm going to look at Texas A&M for a second. Their kicker missed 2 field goals. There were several drives that A&M had where they were on pace and a play got called back. This game should have been like 35-10. But it wasn't because your defense was playing that good. Your offense is abysmal. You got to fix that. I'm going to go through those comments real quick, and then I'll probably go and get out of here. But yeah, this is bad. And I can't wait for that press conference tomorrow and, try to figure out what excuses are going to be made and what exactly direction he is planning on taking, because this is awful. The Auburn fans deserve better. And again, it was something he said in a hype video that came out, I think for the Ball State game or for the South Alabama game, mentioned how the players owe the fans, the coaches owe the fans. There's been so much support for this Auburn football team. There's been so much support from the fans for, saying, "Oh, well, y'all are just doubting us. Oh, y'all don't believe that we are going to have a good offense," and all this hope, and it just crashes in a matter of a couple of drives because you were unable to make and keep your promises on what this offense is going to look like. It's an embarrassment to a university that I hold dear to my heart that you are coaching a football team this way, that you are putting this personnel on the field that have constantly made the same mistakes over and over and over again. And the only silver lining is you've somehow found a way to not throw an interception yet this season. But the time is going to come. There's already been too many close calls that I don't believe that Auburn's going to throw an interception against Georgia. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not picking Auburn to beat Georgia. Looking ahead, I'm not picking Auburn to beat Missouri. I don't think I can pick them to fully beat. I think Vanderbilt might absolutely blow Auburn out of the water. It's an abysmal look going forward. Absolute embarrassment. So, going through y'all's comments. Teresa Vigil, hey Dylan, good news is UTSA didn't lose. They were on a bye week. LOL. That's going to be my mindset for next week. Might take a break from football Saturdays just so I can enjoy my weekend again. Rick Casanave, there were good comments from a few commentators about moving Coleman around, and it makes sense. Yeah, and again, I don't think they were they've not been they did not use Cam like they should have been using him this game. This was the least Auburn has used Cam Coleman this season. He had 8 targets, but again, those passes were bad. Again, 4 catches for Cam Coleman, 18 yards. Yards after the catch for Cam Coleman, -1. Embarrassing for the best player on your team, for the best wide receiver, arguably in the SEC, for one of the best wide receivers in college football. Some of these games like this are ones where you sit there and you have to speculate on, oh Lord, who are we going to lose to the portal because of this particular game? Who is contemplating that move because of how bad this offense looked in this game? G. Purrs, Hugh Freeze supporter, now see this for what it is. Hugh Freeze got to go now. Again, it's another thing where it's like, I'm not going to sit here right now and say that Hugh Freeze needs to be fired. But I will sit here and say that the hot seat conversation is earned. It has been earned. It's put up or shut up time the rest of the year. I said it throughout the offseason. 8-4 is like the minimum requirement you have to get to keep your job. And you're already halfway there, and we're already halfway through the season yet. Halfway losses wise. And if your offense keeps looking like this, you're not going to make it to the halfway point. You're not going to make it to Arkansas. You're not going to make it to Mercer. You're not going to make it. 6-6 don't cut it. 7-5 won't cut it. You've got to start winning football games. You were hired on the preface of you are going to turn this program around and turn it around quickly. The defense has turned around. Again, this is a defense that will stand the test of time and be looked at and revered the same way that 2019's defense was, that 2017's defense was, that all those defenses were. And it'll be remembered as the defense that was wasted on a team that could not put up points when it mattered the most. And last little comment here, Teresa just answering to G. Purds. I've been a Hugh Freeze supporter as well, but after this week, I don't think he is it. Again, something it's becoming a very prevalent conversation topic. And again, it's been earned. And the bad thing is if you fire Freeze midway through the year, you're going to have so many players transfer out because that staff is not going to stay together. And again, it's going to be another mass exodus of players, and it's going to be another rebuild, and then we're going to be another couple of years down before we can even contemplate whether or not Auburn's going to be back in contention for the SEC ever again. It's a vicious cycle that Auburn has been in. And I said this, and I'm going to leave it at this before I head out here. I blame every single person. I'm not a superstitious person. I'm a little stitious. I blame everybody who rolled the trees for the Braves. I blame every single person that did that. I fully believe that had tumors not been rolled for the Braves World Series win, there would not have been a hex put on Auburn's football program. Again, not superstitious, just a little stitious. I fully believe that. And one last comment. But we may lose him if he stays as well if they aren't getting the plays. Double-edged sword. You got to find a way to fix it now. Again, your silver lining is you've lost the 2 top 6 teams. That's your silver lining. But you're still losing these games that are extremely winnable. I look back at last year, and I said going into this year, you have to turn those close losses into wins. You lost to Cal, and you answered back this year by beating your out-of-conference opponent. So you are 1 up on games you lost last year that you've now won. You beat your out-of-conference opponent. And then, you lost to Oklahoma last year, and you lost to them this year. You beat A&M last year, and then you lost to them this year. So now you're back to net 0. That's it. You have the talent to do what you want to do this year. The issue is you're not allowing them the opportunities to do that. You're putting people out there who cannot make those plays happen. Things have got to change, and you have 2 whole weeks before you welcome Georgia into town, before you have a night game where you are going to be celebrating Cam Newton's jersey retirement. And again, if Cam has another year of eligibility, put him out there. But you cannot have another game like this. Georgia did not look like a world beater against Alabama. Georgia's not look like a world beater all year. You have got to find something that will work against these next 3 opponents. Every game is a must-win now. And again, I don't think you cannot, if a game is lost that you could have won against Georgia, maybe the conversation isn't as loud. But again, I think Missouri, if you lose that game, you're gone. And again, Arkansas has already fired Sam Pittman. Sam Pittman has already beaten Hugh Freeze. You've got to win now. 9-3 is still manageable. 8-4 is still manageable. But again, any lower than that, and you're gone. And Auburn's got to go to we're going to go through another vicious cycle of a quarterback or a coaching search and being terrified of who's going to go and just the black hole that is being a fan of Auburn football right now. So with that, let me know what your thoughts are on the Auburn football game. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Of course, don't forget to like the video as well. And if you to subscribe to the channel as well, of course, we'll be doing some bye-week content, getting ready to talk about what Auburn needs to do over the bye week, which we've kind of already alluded to a lot of that already. Of course, getting so very close to 1,000 subscribers, only 36 away from getting there. Be super curious that milestone. See who gets there first. See if we can reach 1,000 before Auburn gets their 4th win of the season. So make that a little goal. See what happens first. With that being said, tune in to the College Podcast yet again. Of course, tomorrow or Tuesday, recorded Monday. Tuesday episode, we'll be talking about what Auburn needs to do over this bye week and recapping what Hugh Freeze talked about in his press conference. Also, probably a little conversation about what's going on over in Auburn basketball right now. Talking about Stephen Pearl's press conference from last week as well. So stay tuned for that. Of course, with all being said, thanks for tuning in for the time of the College Podcast yet again. And as always, War Eagle.